Welcome to The Foundry, where leaders are forged daily. Each week we investigate themes of leadership, entrepreneurship, and mindset with some of the greatest minds in real estate. And now, the data scientist of real estate, George Roberts.
Welcome back, entrepreneurs. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Franco Perez, founder of Franco Mobile Homes. Franco has been featured by Forbes magazine, and he's one of the industry leading experts. And with that, I'd like to welcome you to the show, Franco.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right, yes. Well, it should be a really exciting show because I think that mobile homes are very exciting. We're going to talk about the housing crisis. We're going to talk about affordability and a lot of things that I think is really going to resonate with our audience. But first of all, I just want to say that I love the way that your entrepreneurial journey in mobile homes has been driven by your personal story. And I know there's so much snobbery in housing because for most people, their homes, that's their pride, that's how they show off their wealth. But for many people that are struggling, home is a simple necessity. So what can you tell us from your struggles that might get through to people about the housing crisis and how we can use mobile homes to address it?
Yeah, so I guess there's a lot of problems, and a lot of it, my experience is really, how do I say it? A lot of what I learned is actually through experience, going through the struggle and the pain of trying to get out of the rental rat race myself, right? And being able to see that allowed for me to really feel the pain of the difficulty of just living and just surviving and living, how do I say this? Of surviving paycheck to paycheck, right? And I really realized, like, hey, why is it that I feel like my family is good people, I'm a good person? Why is it that we have to continuously pay rent while the rich and wealthy get to benefit from home ownership? And that was something that I really took a deep study on and really took a deep dive of what elements are really causing this, right? There's a lot of huge benefits of home ownership. We all know it. There's appreciation, there's tax benefits, there's the ability to leverage a loan to be able to build up your net worth. And these are things that are only accessible to those that can afford real estate, and that's the people that are rich and wealthy. Now, the accessibility to housing is getting worse and worse. There's this big wealth gap, and I want to express the pain points in our area. So in San Jose, California, the prices are a bit higher than normal, but rent for a 2-bedroom apartment is typically about $3,500 a month, and purchasing a single family home is about 1.5 is the median price for a single family home. I know these prices are high, but the ratios are very similar in other areas. So how does somebody go through the rat race of continuously paying that high rent and ever dream of affording a single family home later down the line? It's very tough. And realizing that barrier of entry is causing the poor to stay poor, the middle class to stay middle class, and realizing that those elements, there's so many elements that are causing prices to go up while the income average is not going up at the same rate, right? And come to find out, I accidentally stumbled across mobile homes and came to realize that personally, my thoughts about mobile homes were that they were bad stigmas, that they were horrible quality homes, horrible quality people, bad communities, because that's what we see in the media and that's what we see on TV, and we don't really have real life perspective of what these are. Anyways, dedicated a business to really helping people get out of that rat race into mobile home ownerships, because owning a mobile home is really kind of like a hybrid model of home ownership, and it allows for it to be a stepping stone for people to get out of that rental rat race and into home ownership. And then after that, dedicated our life to now converting old trailer-like mobile homes into large, luxurious, contemporary homes. We're turning single wides into 2,000 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes now. So But it's been an amazing journey. But there's so many elements of the housing crisis that is really a problem that we can dive into.
Okay, yeah, we will. But since you did mention the location of some of your homes and the fact that these are not your granddaddy's mobile homes. So tell us, how is it that we have mobile homes in some of the areas, some of the poshest areas of the country?
Yeah. So first off, mobile home parks became popular in the 1970s because it was a great way to kind of get the workforce, housing in temporary areas and that sort of thing. So a lot of these homes that are in these very high density areas were built there before it was very expensive, before there was this housing crisis and that sort of thing. So that infrastructure is already there. In California alone, there's over 4,000 parks throughout the country. There's several in these metro areas that we don't know about. And I urge people to kind of take a look on Google Maps, because I lived in San Jose for 7 years and had no idea that there were mobile home parks around there, right?
Yeah.
And the main thing is that they were built in the past and that infrastructure is already there. And that's the beautiful thing about mobile homes, is that we don't have to govern, we don't have to work with the government to try to enhance the already existing infrastructure that's there. So.
Yeah, and so then you have things like granite in there. These are things that you probably wouldn't imagine. When I think about mobile homes, I don't usually think about granite, but because of the area, you have this huge gulf, right? You've got your tenants, and then you've got your average home, as you mentioned, was about $1.5 million in your area. And then in between, you realize that there are some people, hey, maybe they want a nice place to live, but can't afford a new stick-built home in this area. And that's, I think, the niche that you found to occupy, one of the niches.
Yeah, we really have a full variety of what type of mobile home we built. But you're right, we have like quartz countertops, we have 12-foot high flat ceilings, we have stainless steel appliances, as contemporary as could be. And that's the thing, is like you mentioned, is that, hey, these aren't accessible. Most of the time, these benefits of the home ownership, the appreciation, the tax benefits aren't accessible to the middle class. And this becomes that perfect stepping stone. And I know I'm talking high prices in this area, but we do a lot of consulting in other metro areas as well. And the numbers could be way different, but the ratios are typically the same. Like in Atlanta, average single family home price is about 500,000 and the rents are about 1,800. And then their mobile homes in that area that we're working on a structure as well could be around that $200,000 range, right? Versus where here it's like 300, 400. The main thing is being able to leverage a loan to be able to get them ahead, to be able to better their personal cash flow so that they can, build up their family for the future.
So to put a finer point on it, I think what you're really saying is that a lot of these mobile home parks got there because they sort of predated a lot of the increases in income or the improvements or gentrification of the area. And I think one of the problems that we're having with mobile homes is clearly it is part of the solution to the housing crisis, but we've got a lot of issues. The most obvious one is the NIMBYism, like, hey, sure, I like affordable housing, but then when somebody comes up with a plan to build affordable housing in the community, people don't just necessarily think, well, hey, we've got to have a place to put, the teachers and the firefighters and the police. They just say, like, no, not in my backyard. But there's more to it than that. And my family is in construction. So when you talk about permitting and things like that, there's all these regulations. Tell us, what does that really do to the timeline and to the price of homes?
Absolutely. So there's three topics that from that statement that you said that I definitely want to touch on. There is that whole NIMBY issue, which is not in my backyard. There's a whole movement of people that feel like they understand mobile homes and they don't want it in their area, and they blame it for having some sort of like bad stigmas around their city. Now, one thing I want to mention is that there's not only, if we talk about apartment complexes, there are horrible apartment complexes that you don't want your kids running around, and then there's luxury style apartments that are luxurious, right? And the thing about mobile homes is that everyone assumes that every mobile home park is of bad quality and that sort of thing. Yes, there are a few there are some that make us look bad. However, there are a full spectrum, and there's plenty of average, and there's plenty of luxury resort style mobile home communities as well, right? And we shouldn't associate that all mobile home parks are that way. And we shouldn't write off mobile home parks as an option. And we should really deep dive and understand the people that are in these communities, and how do we help protect this, right? And the second part to that is the construction element, like you mentioned, is that, you know, a huge part of why cost of living is going up is because our ability to be able to build housing is so expensive. Material costs are more expensive now. Labor is more expensive now. And just like you said, regulations and government entities, permitting, upping the requirements in these entities cause delays and cause more frustration in logistics in order for us to build regular built housing, right? So those are huge issues that are causing the price of new development to go up, right? Now, if we look at mobile homes in itself, we are really changing the way construction is seen. We're really streamlining building quality affordable housing in a whole different way. I want to bring up this analogy before I kind of break down our construction timeline, but cars originally were really only available and built for the rich and wealthy. And it was only until we were able to build this on an assembly line in a streamlined process that we were able to get cars accessible to everybody, right? And that's exactly what we're trying to accomplish with mobile homes. And it's exactly what we're doing today. These homes are being built in a factory on an assembly line, maximizing the efficiency of everything using less material, maximizing the labor and the effectiveness of every skilled labor that's being done there, lowering carbon emissions, and at the end of the line, having a completed quality product that's much more affordable than a stick-built home. And the way we build this is really unique, and it's really such a beautiful thing. So I also have done real estate development, that sort of thing, and I know that replacing an old piece of single family home with a new one, it took us about 18 months to complete, to demolish it, to get permits done, to get approvals, to be approved for every phase of the process. And I'm sure you could probably relate to that. But our first project took us about 12 months, let's say, to replace an old mobile home with a new one. And now we've continued to streamline and better that process. And just last week, we actually broke our record and completed a replacement of an old mobile home into a brand new completed home. And we did it as little as 2 months and 1 week, which is incredible. And how that change happened was the realization that we can simultaneously work on different departments and different parts of the construction all at the same time. On a regular construction timeline, we'd have to work on the demo, then we'd have to work on the foundation, then we'd have to work on getting the permits for the structure of the home and all these regulatory timelines that need to get done. However, in the mobile home building process, we're able to stack these timelines so all of them can work together. The demo can get started as the new home is getting constructed, as well as other elements of the process. And it's such a beautiful thing because we're able to compact and compress all of these items to get done and complete homes at less than a fourth of what it actually takes to build a stick-built home. And if we don't fix the housing issue now, if we don't change and innovate, if we think about it, construction has always been built the way it's been built for over 100 years. Everything else is going into factories. Everything else is getting streamlined. But for some weird reason, home construction is still being built on site and not changed. And we have to change it now. Otherwise, we're going to continue to face these housing issues in the future.
Right. Well, I love the way you bring up the stigma, hit it face on, because it's true, it's out there. And I think people need to realize that these are real people. That's the way I've heard it put. And, in the apartment industry, it's very similar. A lot of people don't want to live next to an apartment. they don't like denser housing. And when you remind people that, hey, you were probably a tenant at some point in your life, maybe your brother or your sister or an uncle or a cousin was a tenant. These are good people. You probably have friends that are tenants. We're not bringing bad people into your community. These are people just like your family and your friends, just like you were before you bought a home. And I hope people can really see the human elements in there,
These are
and it is pretty
teachers.
amazing. Hmm? What?
These are very core people to the city, the
Yeah,
teachers,
yeah,
and teachers are priced out of many areas, and they need housing, they need options and opportunities.
yeah, absolutely. And great point about everything else in the world, right? I mean, you wouldn't make an iPhone or a watch by hand these days, but yes, we still make homes that way. It's crazy. And not to say that we don't need regulations. Of course, we need regulations and standards, building codes, etc. But when people realize that there's a real cost to every hurdle that a builder has to go through to put these homes together, there's a human cost. I hope that we can get that message out to people today, Franco.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's something that really has to be fixed, right? And we have to realize that the way things were done before isn't always the right way to, the only way to do it. And some are afraid of change, and it's really a fascinating thing. Only up until the recent last few years there was a long period where mobile home parks were never built. And in the
Yeah.
last few years, we're starting to see parks actually, they want this to be built because they've realized that this is the best way to get housing in a particular area when it's of need. I was just talking to someone in we were doing consulting for someone east of Reno. Tesla built this huge gigafactory with great jobs and that sort of thing, but they don't have housing for their workers. And with that, they're now looking to open a mobile home park and realize that, hey, this is the fastest way for us to build housing and develop this in this area. And immediately we're able to create pretty much a micro city, right, of
Yeah.
housing, and help use this model to be able to assist with that. And I love that this is starting to become a more popular thing. I love that people are starting to realize the beauty of what these look like, because, general public, there's just this disgusting feeling for them that when we talk about mobile home parks, but when you actually, that's why we are so passionate about our YouTube channel and because
Yeah.
people have to see it visually. They have to actually see that, hey, this is what the community looks like. This is what the homes look like. This is how we construct the homes. And this is also, we educate how this has become a perfect use case for this teacher, for this bartender, to be able to stay in a metro area, stay near their family, stay near their great job, and feel financially secure. Right. And that's why this is so important. And that's personally going through that financial struggle myself. That's personally why I'm so passionate about
Absolutely.
creating these types of opportunities.
Yeah, well, I love how you're humanizing the story, and I think that that is very important. And I'd like to point out also that, it's not just these beautiful communities in these beautiful areas like the Bay Area where you're able to do these nice things. I mean, just take a look. I mean, some of the mobile home parks in my area, they aren't built like they used to be. I mean, you have more windows than you had in the past. I know you've mentioned in the past that you've got drywall. I mean, it looks very much. You can have a porch, whatever you want. These really look more and more like the stick-built homes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say in many ways, it's actually of higher quality than a lot of these stick-built homes. Right. And because we actually face regulation issues ourselves, because these have to be transported on the freeway for hundreds of
Right.
miles. We have a very heavy workload of requirement as well, right? These homes are, yeah, like you said, not these tin boxes that we
Right.
assume that for them to be, or these trailer hitched homes that we assume them to be. These are 2x4 exteriors, 2x6 foundation homes with drywall, dual pane windows, and we mentioned the kitchen appliances and standalone tubs, and laminate floors and that sort of thing. And the exterior of it as well, it's fiber cement exterior that will, that will help in many, many ways, right? These are quality style homes. And I know we're speaking on a podcast now, but if you haven't seen what they look like, take a second to look at what they look like, because you will be shocked. I mean, every day, and I get so many people that reach out and are like confused. They're like, there's no way this is a mobile home, or they'll see our TikTok or some sort of form, and there's like, you're lying, this is not. I'm like, trust me. I mean, I know it's hard to believe. This is a mobile home in a mobile home park. It's, I mean, you can look at any of our properties and see it for real.
Yes, why don't you send us some pictures, because I think that would be great to splice in. We go out on YouTube as well, and I think it would be great for people who maybe haven't lived next to a mobile home park like I have, to see that things have really improved. You can have some pretty amazing construction. Just because it was built in a factory doesn't mean it can't be beautiful. And I guess now we're talking about YouTube. You did mention it, but I know you do have some pretty great social media branding. And just to back up for a moment, I mean, to be a success in any business, you need to master marketing, right? And in the business of investing, that often means selling yourself, so to speak. So I know you've launched a successful YouTube channel. You've got www.franco.tv. And you also happen to corner the tag sexy mobile homes on Instagram. So, all right, outstanding. Thank you so much for taking your time to share your knowledge and experience with our audience today.
Yeah, and thanks for having me. I love what you're doing. So it's inspiring others. So I'm thankful to be.
Likewise. Love your work.